The man who never smiles drags his nets through the deep, and we are gathered to gape in the drowning air beneath the buffeting sound of his dreaded voice. Speaking of salvation in the repast of justice done, and fed well on the laden table, heaped with noble desires, he tells us all this to hone the edge of his eternal mercy, slicing our bellies open one by one.
Hello, and welcome to the Legendarium Green Team's Malazan series. Welcome to episode 3 of the Midnight Tide series. I'm BefuddledPanda, and I'm joined by Hurinfan.
Hi!
You're back.
I'm back.
JasnahAsABoy.
Hello.
And Ashaman.
Hi, everybody.
Hurinfan and Ashaman are the Malazan veterans. Yasna and I are reading the series for the first time. Today we are covering Midnight Tides chapters 12 through 19. Spoiler warning, everything up through these chapters is fair game for discussion, and we will use our usual chapter-by-chapter format. Before we get started, it's been a while since we last recorded. Hurinfan wasn't able to make the second episode, but you're back. Hooray.
I'm back. Yay.
Glad you're feeling better. Any highlights since our break? Well, you and I were at Disneyland not too long ago, separately in different parks.
Different Disneylands, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I told you in DMs, but the new Beauty and the Beast ride at Tokyo is fantastic. It was my birthday,
jealous.
that's why I went.
Oh, nice. Happy birthday!
Thanks.
You're what, like 92 now?
Close to, yeah.
Close to? Okay. And Yesna, you are now officially a homeowner.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. And almost as importantly, I own Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie.
Also at this event.
I saw that on your
par with each other, I think, yeah.
YouTube.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And Ashaman, how have you been?
Well, I'm seeing a movie tonight, so that's pretty exciting.
Which one?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's something called Saturday Night Cinema at my local theater. It's like it's a small theater. They only have one showroom, and at the last Saturday of every month, they play an obscure bad movie.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's always a good time.
Do you think it'll be The Room?
No, actually,
It's not obscure enough.
Okay.
That is a very famous bad movie, but this place used to at least play The Room every month, and they had the longest running streak of Room showings.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I've yet to actually see it. I've just heard lots of things about it.
I highly recommend it.
Okay. All right.
The Disaster Artist was also a fun movie based on that movie.
And according to Tommy Wiseau, about 99.9% correct.
Oh my god. Well, awesome. We're here to talk about Midnight Tides. And I mean, I'll just apologize in advance. My notes are almost non-existent, so we're gonna see how this goes.
I actually have quotes this time.
You know, I hear Hurinfan also has quite a bit of notes, so I think it's a role reversal for this episode.
I have nothing.
Big surprise.
But you've read the chapters, which is what's important.
Yes.
All right. Would you like to kick us off with summary of chapter 12?
That I would, Panda. That I would. Briz discovers a dead end, visits a graveyard, and picks up some cursed weaponry. Tahol and Bug employ the services of the Rat Catchers Guild.
Rat Catchers Guild, oh my god.
Yeah, they catch rats.
They do exactly what they say.
That is true. But they're also like, what was it, like assassins and thieves and whatever else.
They do everything that they fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Yes.
And honestly, I wouldn't want to go up against them. Like, an organization with thousands or millions of rats at their disposal.
Well, it seems like half of them aren't even real, though.
Yeah.
Well, they're real rats.
Yeah.
They're just not real people.
Sorry. I meant, yes, the rats are real, but the people of the Rat Catchers Guild maybe aren't all real.
Well, I think it was an illusion covering a rat, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
so they're
see.
rats pretending to be humans.
Oh my god. How did I miss that?
It's actually easy to miss. I would say like I first time I read it, I wasn't sure that that was what it was saying at all. It's just the line where Bug says that he was too the secretary was too rat like. That's the
Okay.
gist of the way, basically.
Got
And
it.
later on, you learn solution and stuff.
I mean, I thought it was something like, how they say, dogs and their owners like
Look like each
look
other.
alike. I thought it was kind of like that.
There's also a lot of that at play, I think.
I just like the descriptions of the rat place, and like there's just pictures of rats in war, fornicating, just everything everywhere. And then when Bug and Tail get there, and obviously Tail is just making up stuff as he goes. And I forgot what I was going to say.
Tails
You can
says,
edit
Oh,
that.
and then the descriptions of all of the people inside the room, and like rats are just like crawling around in their hair
Oh
and up
yeah.
their arms and their clothes and stuff.
Yep.
yeah.
Well, what did you
I'm
expect us to do with them?
I'm
It just
sorry
seems
to
so innocent.
anybody who has rat phobia. Apologies that we're talking about rats so much, but it's kind of a big part of this chapter.
It is sort of a big part of this book.
Yeah.
Rat
Who
catchers
would have
guild are pretty
thunk it?
important. Yeah. So this book has a lot of gross things,
Hmm
including rats.
Mm-hmm.
They're also employed by the king to investigate disappearances,
Mm-hmm.
of which they do none of. But they submit their reports on time and they don't ask for more money, which is the important bit.
Well, it's money well spent, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that little exchange Briss had. I think it was Briss, and
Yeah, it
he's
was.
like, why are we spending so much money on this? They're not finding anything." He's like, "Oh, but it's money well spent." She's like, "Why?" "Because we could tell the people we're using all this money to find it."
Yep.
That's a little too close to home. It's like
It's,
too real.
it's pretty on the nose.
Oh.
The illusion of doing something is a lot more important than doing something.
And then when he
Oh.
asks for the records, then the guy's like, "No, it's not. That's not this office." He's like, "Okay, what's the office?" Goes into the next room.
Also, 3,460 and a half dead people.
Yeah,
Just,
doesn't that raise some questions?
just and a half.
I thought that Bug is very, very competent, and I
Mhm.
really liked. I don't know how true to life or how practical it actually is, but I really liked his descriptions of how he shored up the eternal
Oh yeah.
domicile's wing.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if any architects or I don't know uh,
engineers.
Structural
engineers,
engineers or
structural
something. I
engineers
don't
could
know.
like fill us in and see if that would actually work because it sounded legit to me, but I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Physics.
So, they tell us who the errant is in this chapter.
Oh, do
Mhm.
they?
Really?
Or they tell us a version of who the errant is.
Can you
Do
fill us
tell.
in? Because I don't remember.
Yeah, so it says that it's a personification of the collectivity of the Fork Roll Assail.
Oh.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed. Yes.
I have
Yes.
nothing to add.
Yep. Me neither.
Sounds like Erickson has something to add in the next part of the book.
Maybe.
I just don't have any thoughts on the matter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe you.
Actually, Bjorn is a completely irrelevant character.
Ha.
Um,
Can I? Oh, go ahead.
no, please.
Oh, I don't really know much like what to think about the errant other than yeah, it's there. I'm just gonna wait until things are revealed to me. But the Forkroll Assail, like we do get to know a bit more about them
Hmm
in these chapters, and I mean, I think they're interesting, but at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, what's next?
Yeah,
Yes.
wait and see.
Wait and see.
Got very little teases. Another
Mhm.
tease for you from me is that we actually got a section in these chapters with the errant.
That's true.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Okay, I have a
Like
guess.
it was exclusively the errant, and he was talking and having a conversation.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
You have a guess, you said.
Why? Yeah. Well, yes, but Kieran also said he.
Kieran
Oh.
I think does what Ursula K. Le Guin did when she wrote the book Left Hand of Darkness. When it's gender neutral, you just say he.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. I don't know if I buy it, but okay.
Are you thinking Rocket?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Are you thinking tail?
No.
Okay.
Queen Janal.
Oh yes, that one must have
Okay.
been. Yes.
Well, you gotta tell us
You gotta
your
tell us.
guess.
Well, I was thinking like Kettle because
Okay.
Kettle is also named, the nameless one, and we know from these chapters. We're also off topic of chapter 12 now.
That's true.
Um,
She does have the soul of a fork-roll assail.
she does, and then the other guess is the one that went into the temple of Fulcra, that monster thing
Hmm.
Oh, the demon, the one that Bug
that
said
escaped
go.
the
Yeah.
Azath. But I don't know. You're
Yeah, I mean-
smirking at me.
Any ideas, Yasna?
What was that? Was that? Did we find out what that demon was supposed to be?
No.
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
We found out that it came from the Azath Tower.
Yeah.
that's it though.
And it's
Mhm.
I believe
waiting
so,
for
yeah.
something, someone.
And it's actually
Yeah,
six
there
times.
are little hints in that scene of.
Yeah.
But that's it. Okay.
No guesses?
Nope. See, I thought they told us, so I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
they told us, so that's it. Why do I have to guess?
I mean, depending on how good you are at picking up clues, maybe they did tell you.
Oh.
Right. I'm just saying I bought this explanation that I highlighted here that is apparently not true.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, yeah, please.
Well, you guys have already pretty much said that it's not true because
I don't think it's not true.
but or at least that it's not the whole truth. Because this says the language on the door belongs to an extinct people known as Forkroll Assail, who are collectively personified in our Fulcra by the personage we call the Errant.
Mhm.
So I read that and I thought, oh, okay, that's what the Errant is. It's the Forkroll Assail. Case closed. So
There you go.
I don't have any guesses because I thought that was it.
But we've met a few different Fulcral Assail. Ugh.
Yeah. The
Why
most
does he
prominent
have
of
to
which I
make
think
them
is
so hard to say?
Calm, which is an
Fork sail,
interesting
fork
name.
sail, fork sail, fork sail.
Okay, thank you.
Uh,
Yes. Oh, okay. So last thing about the Forkral Assail in this chapter, off of what that passage you were reading, like the tombs were built for the Jagat, and the Forkral Assail put the wards on the doors so that
Mhm.
the Talanimas couldn't go and destroy the bodies. But aren't those tombs like empty? So what happens to the bodies that are supposed to be there?
Well, didn't we meet at least one of them in these chapters?
we did meet a Jagat.
Yeah.
Actually, there was
Oh,
a little
yeah.
throwback to her. I think later in a chapter, Bug says, "Oh, those catacombs are cold now."
Yes. That's the way
Ah.
he shored up one of the wings
Oh,
of the palace
right.
more quickly than the rest was he got the jacket to help him, right?
I don't
That's what he
remember
implied there.
exactly, but that would mean that because in that section about the tombs, like it said, some Jaga chose something closely resembling death. Souls travel to their hold and abandon their flesh in the tombs, which means that this one came back from the hold into its body. But then
Right.
does that mean all the others came back into their body? Because there is more than one.
Or the Talani Mass or something else got through.
Okie
Let's move
dokie.
on. Harlist is awesome, and I love him, and he's evil, but he's great.
Is
He
he
wants
really
to be
evil?
He wants to be evil, which I think is a pretty good definition for evil.
Like, he
He's
wants to
like
be evil in like an adorable way.
he's almost like the brain from Pinky and the Brain, who's just like,
That's an
you know,
apt comparison, I think.
we're gonna take over the world because that's what villains do, or whatever.
Do you
Except
think if I
this.
ate human flesh, it would rot in my stomach and make me smell bad? Because I want to smell bad.
Yep.
I think that they closed him up in a coffin, and he's not too upset about it. He's just
Yeah.
waiting for his resurrection.
Yep.
He really wants his fangs.
And his talons.
Mhm. I mean, that character must be so fun to play, like in role-playing games.
Oh yeah.
I
That's,
bet.
and Briss got some magic weapons from the Sita. I like how
Mhm.
the Sita just has a lot of cursed weapons.
Yeah.
Aceita's really stood out on this reread for me.
Yeah. Oh man,
Mm.
he's such a Chad.
What if the Sita is that? Now I'm just gonna be suspicious of all these characters. Like, are
Good.
you the errant? Are you the?
The errant is the friends we made along the way.
That's true.
Okay.
There's a little errant in all of us.
Is that a good thing?
Hmm.
I don't think so.
Shall we move on to quotes, or do you guys still have stuff to talk about?
I'm fine with quotes.
All right, all right. So, when Briss is talking to Kettle's mysterious friend in the
Yeah, it's not
yeah,
that mysterious.
very mysterious, a white guy who's been there for a long time.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And he wants 2 swords.
Uh-huh.
Um, Here we go. He's giving him sort of a lecture. Do not seek to find hope among your leaders. They are the repositories of poison. Their interest in you extends only so far as their ability to control you. From you, they seek duty and obedience, and they will ply you with the language of stirring faith. They seek followers, and woe to those who question or voice challenge. Civilization after civilization, it is the same. The world falls to tyranny with a whisper. The frightened are ever keen to bow to a perceived necessity, in the belief that necessity forces conformity, and conformity ascertains stability. In a world shaped into conformity, dissidents stand out, are easily branded and dealt with. There is no multitude of perspectives, no dialogue. The victim assumes the face of the tyrant, self-righteous and intransigent, and wars breed like vermin, and people die. Oh, it's so depressing.
And you missed an important part.
That's true. When Briss is like, "So who do I look to for hope?" He's like, "Your neighbor, the people that are
Around
kindred
you.
souls."
Let me read the rest because I have it.
Yeah, go ahead.
The figure was silent for a moment and said, I advise you not to look for hope from your leaders, for they shall feed you naught but lies. Yet hope exists. Seek for it, Brisbedict, in the one who stands at your side, from the stranger upon the other side of the street. Be brave enough to endeavor to cross that street. Look neither skyward nor upon the ground. Hope persists, and its voice is compassion and honest doubt.
Mm-hmm. And well, we see a few people who voice compassion and honest doubt in this book, and well, they don't have a good time, but you know,
You mean
I
like
think
troll?
yes, like Troll
Yeah, like Troll.
and
Mhm.
Seren and Udanas.
Iron bars.
Iron Bar's a little bit, yeah.
I felt like this part was a bit too on the nose. The last part. Just
The
Oh, it's just too
honest
too
doubt, or
much. Too much
yeah.
Erickson's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But despite that, my quote is also from the same section, and it's one you guys didn't say yet.
Here we
I mean,
go.
I also had the one that here, but it says, you assume the spirit of your civilization is personified in your benign king. It is not. Your king exists because it is deemed permissible that he exist. You are ruled by greed, a monstrous tyrant lit gold with glory. It cannot be defeated, only annihilated. Another gesture towards the fiery chaos below. That is your only hope of salvation, Bryce Benedict. For greed kills itself. When there is nothing left to hoard, when the countless legions of laborers are not but bones, when the grisly face of starvation is revealed in the mirror. So,
Panda,
I
your
will
turn.
say that this does sound like a man who has had thousands of years to think about things, watching a capitalist society unfold.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot here that we could dive into and discuss. I mean, there's like, okay, so do not seek hope from your leaders, but a lot of times, like, that's what leaders are there for, right? They're supposed to inspire, they're supposed to motivate, help provide focus. So it's a paradox. Like, what makes a good leader?
Tehol has some musings on that later in the book, but
Okay.
yeah. Essentially, he arrives at Plato's philosopher king
Oh.
in not so many words. But yeah, there's a Erickson really goes into his political theory here, and yeah, I mostly just agree with him. If you look to a single public figure to save you, that's not going to end well, and I don't think it really ever does.
I think it's more of like, we're all still human. I mean, in our world, in the
Speak
Malazan
for
world.
yourself.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, actually, I'm from outer space. I'm from Mars.
Hmm.
Actually, no, women are supposed to be from Venus. I'm a Venetian. A Venusian? What are people from
I
I think
Venus
a Venetian
called?
is a different
I
thing.
think Ven-
Venusian? Whatever.
I'm gonna Google it.
Thank you. It's don't put people on pedestals, basically. That's the whole
Venusians.
thing. Venusians, thank you. Um,
I'm sure it'll be very helpful.
yes. But then so are there like no good leaders at all? I don't think that's what he's trying to
Yeah, I
say
don't think
either.
that's what he's saying either. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
think he's just saying that like if you want to affect change, then you need to start with the people around you, and don't just
so it's like
happen to follow whatever populist is on your street corner.
be the change you want to see in the world.
Sort of, a little bit, and like it's easy. It's very easy to get demoralized when you look at the really big picture, like be it politics or otherwise.
Mhm.
But if you zoom in and you focus on the people around you and you try and do something with them, then that's where you can actually start things.
Yeah,
Real change.
for when I was reading this, I didn't immediately think of like politics. Like that's definitely a easy step to go, like the easy path to go down. I thought more about religion, and just I've seen so many different religious figures. Just I can't. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think the mysterious stranger is really pro-religion, based on what he says.
But
So,
you mentioned you're talking about leaders. If you look at the people living on your block and you try to figure out what are the problems that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and you look to them to help each other solve those problems, that's leadership.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
also
what
political organizing, but it's leadership. It's a kind of if you're the one that takes the step to be the one to look to your neighbors and make those connections, that is a new form of leadership in itself.
And I think that's kind of what's missing from this passage by Erickson, which is there's different kinds of leadership at all different levels. So, like what you were saying, like it doesn't have to be you being a leader of, a country or a people. It can literally be like, you're typically the one that people go to in your friend group for advice or whatever. Or you tend to be the one who plans the events and tells people when to show up.
You can even apply Silchus Ruin's advice here on that small scale. Because if you do that organizing and everybody thinks, well, Panda is the one that got us together and took this initiative, so we're going to keep looking to her to be the one that actually solves the problem rather than relying on our collective strength. You kind of repeat the same dynamic. So he's also saying that it's not just, that everybody has to do that. That it's not just like,
and that's when you delegate.
not just the leader, but everyone in the group.
Yeah.
the real leaders are the friends we made along the way.
Although, yeah, okay, so I just have two quick things. First, oh boy, there's been a race that has done a lot of collectivist things. And that can turn out badly as well. And
Sure.
second, Erickson, I think very deliberately does leave a lot out of these musings because he wants people to think like this. Like he even deliberately cuts off the conclusions that characters come to a lot of the time. So that you can extrapolate and do your own thinking, and maybe it's a different conclusion than what he had in mind, but that's good because he likes a multitude of perspectives. He likes it when there's diversity of thought because that's when you get real advances.
He literally says that, right?
Yep.
But it's not Silch's Ruins perspective is not a purely collectivist one either. It's basically saying
It's definitely not.
it's basically saying that like, it is a collectivism, but it's also a collectivism that's saying each individual needs to be looking around at their neighbors and like having compassion and working together to solve problems. So it's like an individualist collectivist hybrid kind of thing going on.
Well, yeah, because he like literally says like in a world shaped into conformity, dissidents stand out, right? And he's not pro conformity, so
Right. That
I don't know where you guys are getting Silchus Ruin from. That guy was off in the prologue.
it's totally Silchus. Come on.
Silchus is dead.
He's put in a
Uh-huh.
mysterious
No,
prison.
he's not dead. It was specifically said that he was not dead.
Well, he was put into an Azath, and where is an Azath?
Well, the Zath is dead.
I don't believe in
That we were told by multiple sources.
Stop misleading people.
It's totally Silchus Ruin. Like, you don't have to pretend anymore.
Okay,
Thank you.
there's more than one white guy with scimitars around, okay?
more than one thousands and thousands of year old white guy who got buried in an Azath with two
They
scimitars.
probably don't even know each other.
Uh-huh.
Let's move on.
Shall we go to chapter 13?
Yes, please.
Chapter 13. Rulad consummates his marriage. The Lothari delegation is sent back to their kingdom. Udanas reminds Rulad of his situation. Trull and Surin pass each other in the night.
Panda, how'd you feel about the insta-love?
Well, it
Which is
wasn't Insta love.
Well, it came off as insta-love to me.
I don't think Mayan loves
Rulad and
Rulad
Mayan?
so much. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about Troll and Saren.
Oh, okay. Got it. Honestly, the quote unquote like romance. What?
How's it going on?
The romance in this one, I'm just like, whatever.
Like,
I
they
wanna-
recognize themselves as kindred souls, but like there's nothing really beyond that at the moment.
Well, I mean, she was like
Can't
okay. Here's a confession. I know that Troll Sengar and Whole Bedict are two different characters, but I have a really hard time like keeping track of like which one is being featured. Part of it is probably I just don't really care about either of them much.
You monster.
And so I'm just like, okay, moving on. Give me more, bug. Yeah. So that's what I have to say about that.
Well, Sangar's the one you get the viewpoint from.
That's true.
Yeah, we never get a whole Bedix.
Yeah, and Bedict is like the Lothari guy who's like.
I know that they are different. Like I know what the differences are, but if you'd ask me like, okay, who had this conversation with which other character? I'm like, it could be one or the other.
I thought I really enjoyed the nice ringing of the bell in the quote consummation section. And it starts out with Udinas saying 15 paces is the distance between a slave or emperor and slave. And the final or near the final lines, it was 12 paces was the distance between emperor and slave. I thought that was really pretty.
Yeah. Rulad has
Getting closer.
he's in a rough situation.
Yeah.
Which obviously doesn't absolve him of the things that he's doing. But yeah, the Eater are in a tough spot, I would say. As is I think everybody. And like no one's really sure what to do about all these problems that they're having, because in the end their cultures and their political systems are what's driving them towards war. And as Silchus not Ruin said earlier, the king is the nominal leader, but it's really greed. Like everyone's kind of just like dragged towards this war, and like no one really wants it. And like you can really see all of the different possible reactions to this in this book, because you have the Eater who by and large are just like, shut up, this is a good thing. Even though like they obviously have doubts. Fear is like, he does a complete 180 on his convictions and essentially just decides to go with it. Trull is very conflicted. He doesn't know what to do, but he's going to stick by his people. Hull is like, I hate my people. I'm going to betray them. Seren basically troll situation. And most of the people in Lether that we get the viewpoints of are like, this is a terrible war.
Hmm.
We don't want this. But hey, if they're gonna fight us, we'll give them a fight.
Well, I mean, a lot of the Lethers are like, well, we've always won. Like, do they
Mhm.
think they can really beat us? And I had mentioned in our DMs that I feel like Midnight Tides is a better version of House of Chains in some ways. Because there are
Oh,
some,
now I see where you're going.
yeah, like some things are just, it's like Erickson using the same kind of storytelling elements. It's just more enjoyable in Midnight Tides, with the Lether kind of being in the rebellion mindset. Like, we're gonna win, but you can also see like within the conflicts and how potentially they could tear itself apart. Yeah. So anyway, I don't
You
have.
said,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, just Ashaman said that Rulad's, it doesn't absolve him of his crimes, but yeah, Rulad's a dick. We can all agree on that, right?
Mhm.
But I think we could also all agree that we kind of pity the guy, right?
Yeah.
I
He
guess
also
more so now, like having read through these chapters, yes, particularly with, I can't remember who exactly provided this perspective, but it's the whole like it's not that he doesn't die, it's that he is going to constantly keep dying and
Yep.
coming back, and that's a lot of pain.
That was
That,
troll.
that was Troll, is it that?
Oh, okay. See, I can't remember who said what.
And another theme in this book is people who are in pain inflicting that pain on others. You have the crippled god doing it to Rulad.
Sure.
You have Rulad doing it to Mayen. You have Mayen doing it to Feather Witch. You have Feather Witch doing it to Udanas. Udanas does
Udanas.
it to nobody.
Old
Yeah.
Udnas is at the bottom, and he's taking all the.
Because he's just like,
Yep.
yeah, I'm not gonna be part of this. I'm not gonna be a toxic person who
Hmm.
like inflicts my hurt on people. And you know what?
Well, there's Udanas has two minds on that, and he knows it. The Wyvol poisoned Udanas, keeps saying hurtful things and trying to like be cynical and awful, but Udanas keeps going like, but that's not me. That's the Wyvol blood. I don't want to be like that.
Weevil.
So whatever. No, Wyvern,
Wyvol.
Wyvol, get out of here.
Ignore him.
Waval.
Oh my god.
Dan would probably say it like that. Yeah, and at every level, you kind of don't like the person, but at the same time, you empathize with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always really did not like Feather Witch because she's just awful. But like, she's really a pitiable creature, right?
She's a product of her trauma.
Exactly.
And of the expectations people have placed on her.
Yeah, that too. Hmm.
And things that she's wanted have been ripped away from her.
And she's also essentially still a child, which I think is very easy to forget.
I did forget. How old is she?
So she's described several times in this book as like looking very young. I think she's like 18, something like that.
Wow.
But she looks younger than she is too. And obviously, although she's a slave, she's led a fairly sheltered life for a slave in this world.
So my going into the whole Rulad Mayan thing. So Rulad says to her, like, I saw you looking upon me day after day, and I could see the desire in your eyes. I saw in your eyes how you wanted me. Now, Mayan, no one stands between us. Because we don't like get Mayan's POV, we're left with, okay, do we actually believe what Rulad is telling us, or is this just him being like narcissistic and seeing things that weren't really there, but he wanted to, so that's what he saw? Like, what do you
Yeah.
think?
I hesitate to say this because I know Erickson can trick you by doing this, but because we see all that stuff through Udanas's perspective, so far I've been inclined to believe Udanas's commentary on it, which includes the idea that she was like flirting with him like seeing him as harmless and trying to just like use it to like gain an ally within her fiance's household.
Plus,
see.
we also see her reaction from Urinos's perspective, which I think is the most what's the
Yeah,
right
but
word?
it's
Neutral.
like mixed reactions, and I mean, Udanos isn't completely objective either.
No, he's not. That's
No.
important to remember. But I mean, when she was forced to become the Empress, like I think that was
That's
pretty.
through Troll's perspective. But
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a complicated situation. I think Roulade, in his swiftly going insane mind, I think he definitely thought that Mayan was down to be his empress, and
I always thought that too.
yeah, like I don't know what him and Mayan said to each other, but Troll is essentially vindicated in his suspicions here. um, although the extent to which Mayan could be trusted is also ambiguous. It's a
Yeah.
tough situation, I would say. And then later, Roulade even regrets forcing Fear to give him Mayan. So,
I mean, just look how Mayan reacts, though. I mean, from her actions, it's obvious. It's not like she's into
oh,
it
I don't
at
think she's
all.
into it.
Okay.
But like
Well,
Roulade,
yeah.
he doesn't really know that because she's not telling him, and like no one's really telling him because
Until
they're scared.
Unas does later.
Yeah.
Well, because like I I have some conflicting thoughts about this particular section. I think well, first, like Erickson probably made the right choice in portraying Roulade and Mayan from an outsider perspective rather than trying to embody one or the other or both. But at the same time, like it's something that's hard for me to ignore where, you know, if a woman like smiles at you, does that mean they like you? You know, like if they're particularly kind, if they're just like give you a nice gesture, like with the person receiving it, typically male, yes. Is that just taken kind of to the extreme, like, oh, this person must like me because they smiled at me?
Often it is.
I think the conclusion to be drawn is that human sexuality is so complicated and no one understands it. And I think Erickson would definitely agree with that statement.
Did you ever watch Casually Explained on YouTube?
No.
Oh yeah, that one. She might just be Canadian.
Casually Explained is a comedy YouTube, and he does one where like reading signs from girls,
Oh
and
goodness.
it gets like it starts out small and it just gets absurd at every single level. He's like, well, even then, you don't really quite know if she likes you, A- and like that's exactly how you feel when like you, at least as a teenage boy, and like this girl, like
Yeah.
looking back on it, it's obvious she was flirting with you, but like you're just like, well, maybe it's this, or
Well,
maybe it's that, or maybe it's that, or
yeah,
maybe it's that. And it seems
but it's
like
kind
I don't
of
know.
the
Rula has the
opposite.
yeah, exactly. Rula has the opposite fact where he and I think because of that too, a lot of girls are afraid of showing any kind of even small flirtation to men and boys.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm coming from is like having past experiences where it's like, you know, you're just being nice to somebody and
Yeah.
then they're like, "Okay, now I have permission to touch you or, you know, like get close to you." It's like no.
Well, I think that also shows Roulette's immaturity because before I learned these things where like, oh, well, she's probably not actually into you. It's just this. It's just this. Before that, I would just take any kind of attention as oh, she likes me.
Mhm.
And it took a few times of rejection and humiliation for me to be like, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to start thinking about it differently.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the solution to the complexity is, of course, communication, but people
Yeah.
don't like to do that a
I
lot.
mean,
Or just
it's
bad at it. It's hard.
It's
you're
also
putting yourself
hard.
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like most people don't want to be rejected.
Hmm.
And if you're not like super sure, yeah. Anyway, we can talk about this later.
So Ashaman, Yasna, can you agree with my or were your situations similar?
So my situation was I did not understand girls at all. I thought girls were sort of just like guys for a long time, and then I realized that's not the case in a lot of ways. Because of a whole host of reasons, some of which being you have to deal with guys. I thought that nobody in their right mind would be attracted to a man or a boy. So it's just like they're not into me. No one's into me. It's fine. I'll just live a sad existence, and you know.
Um,
Not heard that perspective, but that's yeah.
yeah, mine's somewhere between those two. Like like in middle school and high school, it's kind of like nobody likes me, so I'll just awkwardly, forcefully try to ask everybody out, and it would work, and it did not work. And then well, not high school, more so middle school, and then high school. I have no idea, honestly. I mean, stuff I did worked in high school. I don't know what it was, or like it's kind of a blur at this point. I mean, I dropped out after taking grade for the second time, so high school for me is like a weird 4 years, 2 of which was actually in school, and 2 of which was not, and involved like staying with a bunch of punk rockers like at some junkie guy's house who worked at a warehouse, and not instead of going to
Oh,
school,
man.
like all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah, I was so like brainwashed by the idea that like there's this competition to like lose your virginity at or below the age that your friends do, that I was statutorily raped by a 26-year-old woman.
Oh my
And
god.
yeah, so and then, as an adult, I met my wife now, my now wife, and like at a time when I was in a bad relationship, and I was just like, I was trying to communicate to her, like, I really like you, but I'm in this relationship. It's not working out. We're trying to make it work out. Like, I want to get out of it. And in trying to communicate that, somehow what I left unsaid led to her thinking, back away, do not bother me. Like, so I thought, so then seeing that reaction, I thought she heard the message, and I was like, oh, she doesn't want anything to do with
Oh,
me,
no.
like, so we've like totally misinterpreted each other, like, and it took us 9 years to get together, basically. Because if I would have come out and just said, look, like, I want to leave my long-term SO for you, she would have been like, oh yes, great, move to Tennessee with me, and it would have been like done. And instead, no, it didn't work because we were trying to use subtext to communicate, and it does not. The subtext is for Malazan books, not for a communication between men and women. It doesn't work. So, like, in the history of our relationship, mine with my wife, is like those really bad romantic comedies where, like, at the end of Act 2, they like go their separate ways, and you think it's over, and then at the end of Act 3, they get together. That's my wife and I. It's a bad romantic comedy,
Oh. Well, at least so far you have a happy ending.
I feel like we've digressed a lot, but that was great.
Sorry,
Thank you.
it was a lot.
No, that was awesome.
You asked. So.
It's true.
Yeah, thank you. That was very interesting.
My context growing up was that relationships were not okay, and also you were not supposed to show affection to anybody.
Yeah, that would mess with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we can move on now, but
Chapter 14.
I have a quote.
I got a quote, but I have a feeling Ashaman it's the same quote.
Okay, well, we'll see, eh? Okay, Hull and Seren are talking, and Seren has some thoughts. Destiny is a lie. Destiny is justification. Yeah, there we go. Destiny is justification for atrocity. It is the means by which murderers armor themselves against reprimand. It is a word intended to stand in place of ethics, denying all moral context. Hull, you are embracing that lie and not in ignorance.
That's a great quote. I wish I had it.
Yeah. Right?
Reading on the Kindle, that's one of the things that's like, oh, a lot of people have highlighted this section.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say, sometimes manifesting your destiny, not a good thing. Don't do it.
I think history tells us that. Next chapter?
Yeah, sure. Chapter 14. Bug visits Kettle and fights off the advances of Rocket. The Letheri have a council of war. Tehil counsels his plans to collapse the economy and shares a bowl of soup with his brother.
Panda, you were saying about Bug?
Yes, I was saying about Bug. Bug is a character that is definitely more than what he may seem on the surface. He is not just some manservant of Tehol. Like, he is called the waiting man. He's got like his own, persona going on, and he is very familiar with things that are, more obscure. And
He
I
knows a
just,
lot that he probably shouldn't know.
yeah, and I'm gonna go back to maybe. No, I'm not gonna say Bug is the errand. Bug Hood. I don't know, because the hold of death or whatever is kind of empty, non-existent or something on this continent. I don't know.
Well, those are
So
some very interesting thoughts.
very meandering.
But I think you're underestimating just how informed you can get off a public library card.
Mm-hmm.
The real knowledge is the friends we learned along the way.
That too.
Yeah, so a lot of really great gross out humor in this chapter.
Will they ever eat something that's kind of normal?
No.
Don't
I mean,
count.
they eventually, yes, but I don't want to spoil anything, so no.
Oh my god. I mean, I gotta think, like, maybe all of the stuff that they're eating is just an illusion and it's actually like really delicious food that Bug, he's a great cook, but he has this like ability to just cast illusion, so it seems really disgusting. I don't know.
That's a nice thought.
Try to link it. Try to link it with your hood.
I can't.
So, is Kettle Troll's daughter?
You think so? Interesting.
Mm.
She could be.
That's
Why?
what
Tell me more.
seems to be implied by this section. And specifically, it seems to imply that Troll impregnates Eris in the future, and Eris comes back and
Oh my
delivers
God.
Kettle in the past. Because it says, Kettle says, I guess this Eris was my mother, yes, and soon you will know who my father is. And he says, I will know his blood, yes, at the very least. And she says, I wonder if he's still alive. And he says, knowing how Eris plays the game last, he might not even be your father yet. She wanders time, Kettle, in a manner no one else can understand, much less emulate. And this is very much her world. She is the fire that never died. He paused and said, she will choose, or has chosen, with great deliberation. Your father was, is, or will be someone of great importance. And we know from House of Chains that in Troll's future, Eris assaults him and rapes him, basically, and takes his seed. So, like, Troll will be Kettle's father, right? That's what that scene is saying to us.
I think you're making a lot of really good connections, but I think there's one problem.
Which is?
Kettle looks human.
Okay. Does she do this a lot, Eris, then? Is this like a pattern of like time traveling and raping people and then having their babies at other time?
I think the Aerosol is the 14th Doctor.
Oh my God.
That's actually kind of what I read this.
This is just setting up to be in the expanded universe of the Doctor.
IDK.
So one of my questions was, do you have any theories about Kettle? So thank you for sharing that. And I have another question. What do you think about Kettle coming back to life? Is it good or bad or scary?
Here's what I think. Death, whatever. Just whatever.
You mean Bug?
Forget about it.
Just no, not necessarily Bug, but just like the concept of death is just Erickson can do whatever he wants. I mean, he does whatever he wants in this world. And so at this point, I'm like, sure, this dead girl, supposedly dead girl, is her heart's beating again. Cool. Vampires. There are stories with vampires coming back and becoming human again because love or whatever. Sure, why not?
And there's even a zombie movie that centers on that premise.
I know which one you're talking about, but I don't want to spoil it.
So, in the interest of perhaps providing an explanation, and the explanation is given in here, I'm just going to outright state it so we're all on the same page. The ritual that was done, that basically entombed the continent in ice, it really messed with things. And as a result, until now, there has been no hold of death on the continent.
Or like the Azath took that role.
I think it's like the dead Azath. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe.
I think the Azath house is kind of filling that hole.
But yeah, there's as the Sita notes, there's no hold of death, it seems, and that has big implications for where spirits go, because usually they go to Hood, and other times they go to other gods, but there aren't really any active gods on this continent. So
Right.
the spirits are just kind of tied to the land usually, like we see in Dead House Gates, or they're wraiths, like we see the Teist Eater use, Teist Eater. So yeah, Lether is specifically the place where death is very wishy-washy. And that's also why Shirk can exist.
And Harlist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and Jack Hood, not really dead. So there you go. There's a lady grabbing Silchus's ankle.
Yes.
Yeah, he needs to get the swords down there.
Cut off his foot. I'm
I don't think the idea is cutting
fairly.
off his own foot.
Yeah, he should cut off her
Cutting
wrists.
off her wrist. Okay, so it wasn't the Saw moment that I thought it was. Okay.
Is that what you would do in that situation?
I mean, the way
You're
that
a
it
nice
was
person, I gotta
written.
say.
No choice. She's got a hold of my arm. I gotta cut off my leg. She just cut off her wrist. I didn't know that was an option.
Don't put me in that situation.
No kidding.
I'm pretty sure that the lady is Scabby's daughter, but that's just me, my brain.
Eyebrows are going up and down.
Hmm
Quotes?
9.
None?
I mean,
Oh,
I
okay.
probably do, but I don't know.
All right, so my favorite one. I don't think it'll be as funny to other people, but this made me crack up laughing for like 5 minutes. It occurs to me, Briss, that you are more at risk than I am. I am well guarded, brother, whilst you are not. Nonsense! I have bug.
Yeah.
The manservant looked up at Briss with a bland smile.
Hmm
A bland smile. It's so fun.
They're an excellent comedy duo.
Yes, I want the Tail and Bug show.
Yeah.
And
Maybe someday.
Steve could play Bug.
we get in this chapter we get Udanas asking the question that I've had since Memories of Ice. And then later in this section we get the definitive answer to that question. But it says, what kind of creatures populated them? Demons. And perhaps that was all the word demon meant. Some creature torn from its own realm, bound like a slave by a new master who cared nothing for its life, its well-being, who would simply use it like any other tool, until made useless, whereupon it would be discarded. And I read this and went, I've been saying that! I've been saying that's what demons probably are. And then, of course, we know that later in the section, we get that confirmed, or seemingly confirmed, by the the caster of nets.
Extra of nuts?
Nets.
While we're still on this, so I don't forget, did you guys catch where exactly that demon was from?
Yes.
Yeah. It
Where?
lived in the Nation.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Mentioned
Okay.
the catfish.
Oh, yes.
And the
I
sharks.
remember the catfish part. Whiskered fish and blah, blah, blah.
And so this guy, his entire family's gonna die soon, it seems.
What, when the nation is flooded by Rulad and the Warlock King or whatever?
Whatever happens to the Nation, it kills the inhabitants.
Right. Are these demons the squat people that were described as like described by Troll as like the allies that the Teist Eater found in the nation?
I think so.
Okay. Allies. They're using them as slaves.
They're still on the same side.
I guess, forcibly. Yeah, I mean, I guess the usage of the word demon is maybe a little bit like the usage of the word alien, not strictly pertaining to, like Martians are aliens, but a person who is not of this place that they are currently inhabiting, which I don't think that term is really used anymore to refer to people. I think it's more either immigrant or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's still used in like some legal documents.
Yeah,
but-
outdated.
Yeah, I think it's more of like a technical term. Because when I hear alien, I think most people they think of outer space.
hmm
Even though I'm an
Technically,
alien.
I was an alien for a while.
How was
I am
that?
an alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still might hear it from bigots or whatever. We're illegal aliens.
I don't believe it.
Oh, I got no quotes. So
Yeah, same.
15.
Chapter 15. Lether shows off its first strike capabilities. Barak takes his leave. Troll goes hunting with some comrades. Udanos meets his son. Atri Preda Jan Tovis gives the Eater their first victory.
Jan Tova is a cool name.
Yeah, codename Twilight.
Well, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, we got midnight, we got twilight, we got dawn, dusk,
Mhm.
Yeah. Seems to be a
whatever
theme.
else. Is there a midday, noon? No.
I don't think there's a daughter noon yet.
Okay.
This is the chapter where Baruch kills himself, and it kills me. Not because I like Baruch, but I don't know, just the way that Steve writes it just makes me really feel for the dude. And then when you go back and read it again, and like the conversations he had with Saren up until that point, it was just like hindsight. It's obvious, but when you're
No,
there,
it was obvious in foresight too. Every time he
for
said
me.
something, I was just like, "He's gonna kill himself. What are you doing, girl?"
it wasn't obvious to me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sound like a jerk when I said that.
Yeah, jerk. Wow.
Yeah, it's a tough series of events to read, and yeah, he's a hard character to really judge in my opinion because as he explains like sort of the reason he's doing all this is because he has a conscience and
He
that
wishes
was
he didn't.
he was exploited and like drawn in by the system to be a spy and like he's hated himself his entire life because of it and he turned to alcohol and then other things to try and cope and he always loved Seren. He wanted her to be near him at least and even though she didn't seem to care for him that much or at least not in the same way and yeah at the end he dies alone basically just thinking that he's a terrible person.
Not to be confused with Baruch from Gardens, who is an alchemist.
Yes.
Thanks,
And is generally living a
Erickson.
better life.
We should ask
Yeah.
Steve. So there is some obvious symbolism in this chapter that I'm not quite sure that I understand. I want to get your opinion. So when Troll is leading his group, they find the line.
There's the dead owl.
That's it. Yes, they find the dead owl and nothing else. And I thought that maybe the dead owl symbolizes the loss of wisdom in the war because owls symbolize wisdom, but I don't know.
This is the third time the owl shows up, I believe, right?
Yeah, what did the owl mean? Sequences.
Yeah, like I think in order to truly parse the owl, we'll have to look back on it once we've all finished the book. And
I forgot the other sections because I read that like a month or so ago.
Yeah, the owl is mysterious to me.
Maybe we should all when we finish book 4 before we record, we should all word search the owl and find all the mentions.
Yeah. Like our last episode could just be us arguing about what the owl meant in books 1 to 3.
Yeah, we don't need to do chapter by chapter. Let's just do owl debate.
That's what the listeners are here for.
Yeah, right.
That's obviously fodder for a side episode. That's 3 or 4 hours long.
Oh yeah, maybe we can talk to JP about it. I'm sure he knows.
You can count me out of that. Thank you. Bye.
We have the magic being, if not compared to nukes, at least compared to like ballistic missiles of some sort, right?
Yeah, the magic was frightening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the chapter with the weird like wheel bridge.
Yes.
Yes.
I would ask you what you thought about that. 'Cause it's a bridge. It's not a bridge.
I was struggling to picture it. I looked up some pictures and it didn't look like what I was trying to picture in my head. But
Well, I just remember Troll, I believe, making the comment like there are better ways to tell time or something.
right.
So maybe it has something to do with time.
Hey, we know a guy who's obsessed with time, right?
I know.
I was just gonna say, I got the impression it was like a jackhammer, which if it's got something to do with time, Icarium.
Yo, Karim's been everywhere.
He's quite old.
Dude gets around.
Yeah.
I really liked some of the, I guess you'd call it expedition. Learning about the First Empire. I really like those sections because I think the First Empire history is very interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of this puzzle we put together over the course of the series. We have
Like,
a lot of the pieces
we'll-
now.
We have a lot of the pieces now, but it's literally just like one or two pieces from every single book.
hmm
That's why I think it's so interesting.
I'll be honest. Don't care.
It's not something you need to care about. Don't worry.
Like
that's true.
it's not something that, I'm keeping track of. I'm just like, cool, that's the history back then. If it's
Yeah,
gonna be relevant later, cool.
It's the context for why the world is as it is in a lot of ways.
It's really just world building.
Yeah.
But
I like the First Empire stuff.
I like the puzzles.
Every time I get a new puzzle piece, I think back to Haboric and Culp and Felison walking through the ruins.
Yeah.
Like every single time, like I have a vivid picture of them in the ruins in my head. And every new First Empire piece, I think of them. I think of Rolandris, and I think of Treach.
I feel really sorry for the Talani Moss we see here. They just kind of been stranded without their Bonecaster for who knows how long.
In Starfall Demolane, right?
Yeah.
They're just like at the doorstep of the Warren of Dragons. Like they don't know they're undead and they don't have a Bonecaster. It's
Pretty wild, eh?
yeah. That was such a weird section to like. It's like, oh, and now we're in Starfall Demolane. Oh,
And
okay.
wouldn't you know it, Udanas' son is there.
Yeah.
And
7 weeks old.
Udanas' son gives us a pretty exhaustive list of real dragons.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting.
And the names mean nothing to him until he gets to the set of names that are the soul taken that the reader is familiar with. So Udanas is like a stand-in for the reader in the scene because it's just like a bunch of gibberish.
We know one, maybe two of the dragons.
We know
Because
Solana.
Solana.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Solana, and we heard about but have not met TM before. Does he mention TM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe Animander has been mentioned to have drunk the blood of Tiam.
I have to admit,
Andrus was angry about him for.
How many times are you gonna say that?
Huh?
Nothing, Panda. Just giving a. I have to admit.
Ah.
I expected more dragons from the series than I've gotten so far.
You'll
Every
get
single
more.
book has dragons in them.
I know, but it's like,
That's like more dragons than any other series I've ever.
I mean, for a series that are supposed to have really cool dragons, I'm like, okay, that's all. I'm expecting more.
Well, he's teasing us with them.
I'm waiting.
Or dragons to come.
Well, he threw like 7 of them at us in Gardens, and then it's like
No!
they're always, huh?
Maybe that's why Gardens is still my favorite, because the
Maybe.
action in Gardens was just more boom, 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 and here I'm just like waiting, literally wading through the words.
Literally?
We
Yes.
got some we got some dragons in the prologue this time. That was cool.
I know, and then there's a bunch of like, oh,
There's a bunch of Weivil. They're like like when
Weevil.
you order dragons from Wish.
I think there's gonna be a moment that you're gonna hate in Reaper's Gale.
great.
Yeah. Kieran knows what I'm talking about.
I love that part though. It's so good.
I like that part. But Panda's gonna hate it.
I think that's probably the book that
I do
I'm
think
most,
she's gonna like it.
that's the
See.
book that I'm most hesitant to pick up.
Oh really?
Oh really?
Yeah.
Not Told the Hounds. Interesting.
I mean, y'all say Toll the Hound is great, so
It's by far my favorite, but it's very slow.
wow,
I
great.
I didn't enjoy most of it when I
No,
first.
great. Never mind.
Yeah. So
Why
being
am
more
I
fair,
reading
Toll
the
the Hound,
series?
Which one's like the prep one?
Dust
The
of
what?
Dreams.
Oh,
Dust of Dreams. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean
Ah,
like the lead up to the really long lead up to the conclusion of the series?
The Crippled God.
Dust
Yeah.
and Dreams and the Crippled God is really just one story put into
but the
two
Crippled God's
volumes.
not as preppy as Dust of Dreams.
Well, it's the payoff to Dust of Dreams setup,
Hmm.
Well, it's a payoff to the whole series setup.
and also the whole series. Yeah.
I can't wait. I've got Iskar Jarek. One of his favorites is Dust of Dreams, so I've got him coming on for it.
Ooh,
I like Dust of
Ooh.
Dreams.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
We were talking
forgot.
about Midnight Tides.
Dragons.
Dragons. Yes, I want to see more dragons. Like I want to see not just, like flashbacks and stuff. I like actual dragons doing cool things
Hmm.
in the present that affect the plot, the characters, the consequences of the things
You-
that we are currently observing.
Well, we got that in Dead House Gates.
No, I know, but it's like just
3 books.
Not enough.
I expected more. That's all. I did see a
You know-
tweet today with from Erickson talking about how like he gets giddy when writing about dragons, but then he remembers the breaking of tiny bones or whatever. Like, cool, thanks.
The Breaking of Tiny Bones.
Yeah. I mean, I understand, dragons are they do have consequences. But
No,
this is
I'm
why I
with you,
read
Panda.
fiction.
I love dragons, and I want more of them.
hmm
Uh,
I've got no notes for the rest of these chapters, so
I've got
y'all are
like
gonna
one
have to
quote
carry.
for the rest
Um,
of it.
I've got a
So
lot.
I have one thought on dragons and a quote. I think that it is better to use dragons sparingly and still have them like be magnificent in your stories than to like overuse them and then it sort of becomes like, oh, there's another dragon, you know?
Sure.
But
Fair.
like okay, this is one of the things that makes the crucified dragon stick out so much in my mind, right? Because we hadn't really seen many dragons by then, and we haven't seen many dragons since, and we certainly haven't seen any Odotarl dragons since. So like that's a big Chekhov's gun that's waiting to go off, right?
Yeah, and I'm waiting.
You're
That's
waiting.
the thing.
You're waiting. Okay.
I think
Let's
the
see.
similar thing could be said for the Kachin dinosaurs.
Change them all.
True.
But we did get more of those. We got
We
quite
got
a
a
bit.
lot of those.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Memories of Ice didn't Rake and
Yes. But
Corlat
that's the thing.
and
Is like I enjoyed those parts. I would like to see more of those things. And yet, right now, I'm like, we gotta be with Troll's feelings again,
but what if Troll's feelings are dragons?
The real
Sorry.
dragons are the feelings we made along the way.
No.
I knew you were gonna say that.
So I have a quote.
Please
This
read
is
your
from
quote.
Udanos. Feather Witch, the question of what is deserved should rarely, if ever, be asked. Asking it leads to deadly judgment and acts of unmitigated evil. Atrocity revisited in the name of justice breeds its own atrocity. We Lethari are cursed enough with righteousness without inviting yet more.
Hell yeah.
I think those are words to live by.
I agree.
Like, yeah. I think I've said this
Hoorah.
before. But giving people what they deserve leads to a terrible world.
You
We
know,
all deserve
actually,
garbage.
I mean, I create garbage. The thing that we talk about compassion a lot because Erickson is not, subtle about compassion. But something that it's not deserved, because if you deserve it, then it's not that, is mercy. Like mercy at the heart of it is it's given to you not because you deserve it, but because the person is overlooking whatever, transgressions, flaws, or whatever, and still giving you that benefit, the positive. And I guess, like, do you see compassion and mercy as being the same?
I see them as being very related.
Yeah, but isn't mercy like only given by your enemies when they beat you?
depends
I
on
don't.
your religion.
I don't think it's like only given by your enemies. I think it's given when somebody who has good reason to not give you compassion or not to give you like any positive feelings, right? Yet they still choose to do so. I think maybe what the difference is that the person giving mercy, like they've received insult, harm, hurt from the person they're giving mercy to.
Mm.
I will also add that, okay, I don't think that I deserved to be born where I was in like the one of the richest societies and one of the best times in human history, raised by a fantastic mother and father. Like I don't deserve my mom's love. I did nothing to deserve that. She just gave it.
I can
And
agree with that.
that's what makes the world a beautiful place. People giving without expectation or without needing to have something given to them first. Like yeah, like the love of someone else
Mm.
is not something that I think anybody can really do anything to deserve. I think it's something that's like a gift that's basically beyond value.
I do tend to agree. I think there is a cynical view of that too, though, which is sure, like you didn't do anything to deserve your mother's love, right? But she gives you love and she also gets something out of it,
That's true.
right? Like she gets whether that's happiness or whatever, endorphins. You will take care of her when she grows older.
Look up ethical egoism.
Mhm.
Well, there's also a school of thought that would say because you're human, you deserve
Yeah.
those positive things.
Well, there's also the like human rights, right? Like because you are human, you quote unquote have these rights that I guess you deserve would be one way to put it, and there's a whole declaration of that, whole document that countries have signed.
Your words have put tears in my face.
I
Excellent.
think you're talking
Let's
about
be-
Ashaman's words,
Here and
not mine.
crying. Yeah, I think people choosing to be good to each other without good reason is a very beautiful thing, and you can view it cynically. Ethical egoism is a very cynical way of seeing this. Basically, it's a position that states that people only ever do things for themselves.
Hmm.
Everything just leads back to themselves. It's not very popular in philosophy for a lot of reasons, but like humans chose to give ourselves these rights, unless you're religious and you think they're bestowed upon you by a supernatural entity. In which case, it's sort of a different story. But yeah, it's sort of hard to talk about in a lot of ways because we don't want to get too political or too
Yeah.
philosophical. But I'll just say that thinking in terms of a zero-sum game with human interaction leads to nothing but ugliness.
It's not a great way to live.
Yeah.
Let's move
I
on.
agree.
With me?
What?
Huh?
Nothing.
Again,
in-
y'all
in
gotta
the-
carry on because I got no notes to jump to.
Yeah, I can go to chapter 16, but I don't.
No, wait. I got something funny to share. So Featherwitch and Udinas are in Mecca City talking with his son, and at this point, he's like, "This kid can't be my son. He's way too old to be my son." And
Oh yeah.
so they ask, "How old were you before the ice broke the city?" 7. Triumphant, Udinas spun to face Featherwitch. 7, the boy said again. 7 weeks. My mother kept saying I was growing so fast. I must be tall for my age. It just he gets so smug, and then it just shattered.
Hmm.
Poor Udinas.
Yeah, Steve hates him.
Steve does terrible things to the characters he loves.
What does that say about him?
Um, let's ask him.
Let's ask him.
Chapter 16. Suren makes some friends from a distant land and flees straight with them. The captured eater god proves efficacious. Rulad finds himself unhappy with his new job. Withal is gifted a woman, then finds religion.
It's this poor character with all.
Whittle is he's quite pathetic.
Poor guy, yeah.
Yep.
But hey, he has a woman now.
Right.
That
Has
slaps
a
him
woman.
He was
around.
She's his now. I'm sure if that to her, she would understand.
I'm pretty sure he has a concussion.
Not in this chapter.
Not
Yeah.
but it is in the future.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. Moving forward.
I mean, I don't blame her. Wake up naked on an island with some weird dude.
And some ape-like creatures. I find Seren's predicament here very sad.
Yes.
But Iron Bars is cool.
Iron Bars
was-
is cool.
I was very pleasantly surprised by the introduction of Iron Bars. Yes.
Yeah, and he kills the man who raped her, and he almost makes it very painful. And she's like, no, do it quickly and cleanly.
She
Something
regrets
that really
later.
comes to regret, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. I still think she made the right call, but
I think she did, yeah.
the Eater God is also a really sad story.
I don't remember.
Amadari?
It is composed a lot of dead newborn babies that were sacrificed to it by the Eater when they were bringing it back. So that's shall I explain this? You guys all look confused.
Very confused. I don't.
What are you talking
know.
about?
So the mage talks about what she's learned of the Eater God, and so she was like, okay, so it was a god of the well. It went out into the sea. It came back to the well. The Eater found it. They fed it blood.
You don't. You mean the god that the Eater have working for the one
Yeah.
that like
Father
they
Shadow
got? Yeah.
is a stoved-in head at the moment, and also
Right.
here.
Yeah. You calling it the Eater god threw me off.
Me too.
The god
Yeah.
the Eater have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a big ball of dead babies, which is horrifying. I think.
Thoughts on the Crimson Guard and the Avowed?
Dude, after Gardens of the Moon, I expected the Crimson Guard to be part of this story way more than this, and they just have not been here. I've been
Mhm.
waiting and waiting for the return of the Crimson Guard. Thought I was gonna have to wait till after Bone Hunters to actually read the book called Return of the Crimson Guard. So I was so happy that we finally got some damn Crimson Guard in here.
Mhm.
They like show up at the end of the Gardens of the Moon and they like resolve a bunch of plot threads real quick and disappear. And you're like, oh, they're definitely gonna be in the next couple books. And it's just like nothing. And I get to Memories of Ice and I'm like, oh, we're gonna get to see the Crimson Guard. And there's a character that's just like, oh, they're off doing something.
Yeah, no, like
Oh,
we get rid
okay.
of all the interesting people. Like here are the mod irregulars. Yeah, a group of people who got together, made a vow to destroy some other people.
And they
Mhm.
regretted it.
They regretted it.
Yes, yes. What Yasna has channeled. Yes, that's me.
I got some bad
Also-
news though. The Crimson Guard aren't in the rest of the book of the fall.
Are you serious?
So you just gotta go read the side.
Yeah, read the ice
Books.
books.
It's almost the Crimson Guard are in the majority of his like the character perspectives that Ice follows. Cam follows.
Yeah, and Steve does he spins up a few storylines that are dealt with either in the sequel trilogy he has or in Ice's novels. So a lot of people who just read Book of the Fallen are like, wait, what happened to all these plot threads?
Is
Um,
it because I mean I don't know if you guys know this. Is it because like Ashaman was more of the creator of the Crimson Guard? Like it was more of his idea?
I think it's
don't-
because when they split up the plots about what they were going to write about separately from each other, that Cam took the Crimson Guard, and that's it.
Mhm.
Because they don't divide it up by who came up with it. A lot of the Rujistan was stuff that Cam was running when they were gaming together. So it's just like they just like natural, and they said there was like almost or difference of opinion on how the split should go. So they just like naturally gravitated toward their half of the series, basically.
Okay, cool.
Cam's just like the Crimson Guard is more mean. Yeah. Are they really not at all in the rest of the books?
They're not at all in the rest of the books.
But like, okay,
Do not count on them being the major players.
it's okay. Once we finish Bone Hunters, I can get back to Cam stuff. So
You'll like Crimson Guard after Bone Hunters.
I agree.
So I'm starting to understand why Troll is such a popular character.
Ah,
Is
He's very popular. People
He's
love
very
Troll.
popular, yeah.
Why?
You know, I didn't care about him until the demon stuff.
So
We're not at that chapter yet. Sorry.
this is the section when when I started to really like Troll the first time around, and it is because not only is he a perceptive guy, he's smart. He is pretty cool with his spear. The spear being the objectively correct weapon in most fantasy. But he also really puts himself out there. He takes like enormous risks in these chapters, questioning the way that things are because he cares too much. He's not able to shut up the voices inside him and just kind of go along with the flow like everyone else is. And to me, that really makes me like he may be the most morally upright person in the series, in my opinion.
He's incredibly principled.
Yeah,
And that
and
really-
we know that he pays dearly for it, and yet in House of Chains, he's still a very good guy. He doesn't let it destroy him. He also kind of just starts caring about these people he has no reason to care about, like Onrak and the Tlani and still
Lilac.
his own people. And yeah, so yeah, that's why people like Troll.
Yeah, like he will not shut up about how stupid this war is and how he doesn't want to fight in it, and like really treasonous things when you look at it, right?
Yeah.
And his older brother
His older brother's like, I'm gonna
actually
kill you.
attacks him later on,
Yeah,
and he's like, "You need to shut up because, like, I could not do that. I
The
know I couldn't do
Eater,
that."
the Eater are a little cartoonish in that way, though, that he's the only one. Like, there's not like more. It's like so stark. It's like a caricature of like a minoritarian opposition to the war in the Empire. Like, you would at least have a few people.
well, we don't know
like
if there's
even if
nobody
it's a small constituency.
else.
What's that?
But we don't know that it's nobody else, and there are definitely people who have doubts. Like Fear obviously has doubts, right? But he's very consciously repressing them because he just can't handle it. And also, the Eater are being given something very attractive. They are being given the chance to be
Sure.
the conquering heroes, essentially. And
Right. Well,
all of
and
that.
and yeah, and I could buy that being a majoritarian viewpoint, but like for him to be the only guy, which is what it seems like to me reading it just feels like a little stark.
We don't
like-
get all of the Eater perspectives. We actually get like a fairly limited amount. We get like Rulad
Yeah,
and the
I-
parents and like some young warriors. That's essentially it.
I'm kind of in Yasna's camp though, because I think part of it is that the Eater, they do seem kind of flat to me. In that it's just very much, oh, they have this lie in their history, and they, some people know it, but other people don't, and they're just kind of like going along with it because it's easier to go along with, what the majority are saying they think rather than standing up, which is what Troll is doing. It's I get what you guys are saying, like Troll is very upright, morally, awesome. At the same time, like I'm just not loving this character. And because I am not loving this character, I'm not like, yeah, I'm rooting for Troll, So
So
Also-
I don't want to invoke Godwin's law, but this is actually a very apt circumstance. People didn't speak out in Nazi Germany. That almost never happened, and the people who did were sent away to concentration camps, essentially.
there was like armed organized resistance the entire time. Like it may have been minoritarian, but it wasn't one person. Like it was going on the whole time.
Like
I think it's
if you want an example of insubordination from someone who's not Troll, the woman who he gets to heal the demon. That's kind of a big deal because the demons are treated as slaves. And
right,
despite the
but I
fact
think
that
what
Troll has hit a woman, one of the healers, one of those people that she knows very well, apparently. She still goes along with it and does this act of compassion for this demon.
I think it's just a bit simplistic in how it's portrayed. That's why it's just not really.
Also,
grabbing me.
Troll kind of seems like, and this might just be his character, so it might be this part might be well written, and it might be like a well written character that has a weakness, but God, he's not even trying to like persuade anyone. Or like even the troops that he like works with and like leads, he's just like giving them orders, arguing with them. He just says whatever's on his mind, and he's not even like trying to organize. He's just like being an edgelord basically, and like not like he's not trying to do anything to like actually change any of it. He's just like, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this. I'm gonna give you orders. I'm gonna argue with you.
The reason he's not like doing an organized resistance is because, well, first of all, it's his brother who's in charge, which leads to a lot of complex feelings on the matter. And second, I think he really thinks that he can get through to people. He sort of has this idea that because he's making a well-reasoned argument and it's so clear to him what's going on, other people must see this, and he just needs to get through to them. And they see what he's saying. They just
this guy's got a charisma of like 6.
I wouldn't say that.
he like none of his troops like him. He's not even trying to get the people under his own command to like him. He's terrible at persuasion.
They don't want to hear what he has to say, and that's like a really realistic thing to say.
But they don't even respect him as a captain. Like
it's because he's the dissident. He's the one that's standing out.
No,
like,
even before.
No, yeah, like, he implies that there's a long-standing like negative relationship with these people before they did this whole really new imperial expansion thing.
Right, but like everyone respects that he like his martial prowess, basically. That's outright stated.
But they don't like him.
They don't like him, but I think part of it is also there is a part where when Troll is like lashing out at, I think it was fear, he even acknowledges like, I don't know where this is coming from, but I just have to say this. It's like that just seems too simple for a character that is supposed to be more complex.
And isn't he like hundreds of years old? He hasn't been persuasive in all that time?
No, he's not hundreds of years old.
He's not? Oh, they're supposed to be long-lived, aren't they?
They're long-lived.
Is he super young? Oh, he's
Troll
okay.
is pretty young.
He's
still
just
50?
Now.
Like I acted the way Troll is acting when I was 14.
Well, people are long-lived. Different species develop at different rates.
He is acknowledged as being younger in
Okay.
House of Kings. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
I think we should move on. I think.
Sorry.
I will say one last thing. My experience growing up in a very religious environment was essentially trolls, which is one reason why I relate to him so much. Like, this is just how it is sometimes with people. If they don't want to hear what you have to say, they're not going to listen to you.
And just by speaking out. Sorry.
Yes. Just by speaking out, you get ostracized.
Next chapter.
Do I have a quote? Let's see.
Nope.
Chapter 17. Tehil walks as philosophic, appoints Bug as leader of some undesirables, and goes on a date with some lady friends. Shirk enlists the dead for her latest caper. Kettle converses with several interested parties.
I don't have any notes. Good chapter.
Mostly I was thinking today that, oh man, Yas is going to love this Marxist philosophizing on Tehil's part. Like, he gets really close to the labor theory of value here.
He does, and I was listening in the shower, and I was laughing so hard because he gets to the labor theory, close to the labor theory of value, but he does it in this like super pontificating, like rambling, like almost like self-mocking way, where he's like kind of mocking the self-importance of political economists. And the labor theory of value, by the way, not a Marxist thing. Marx didn't come up with that. He added stuff to it. It came from this guy Ricardo or Say or whatever, who wasn't even like a socialist. It was like whatever. Well, but all those economists talk the same way, and Tehil in that scene is like has that like self-important, super academic, like pontificating and kind of rambly like tone to what he's saying, and it's like clearly like kind of satire of all those political economists like Adam Smith, Karl Marx, Ricardo, Say, all those guys. But he does it like on purpose, and he's like clearly making fun of it, and he like gets to the end and he doesn't have a point, and like it's just, and
What was
Bug's
my
like,
point again?
what was that? What point was that? And he's like, well, I don't know. It's
Oh, well, that was my point exactly.
It makes me really curious as to whether or not Steve knows the current state of the philosophy on that, because I believe it's the majority of opinion among Marxist philosophers that the labor theory value just can't be true. It's just so.
what?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's a minority opinion amongst Marxists.
I took a class on it.
I've interacted with a lot of Marxists, and it's pretty
Um,
much heretical to say that. I have a friend who believes that, but it's pretty heretical.
If you like, I can point you to the what's seen as the knockdown argument later.
That's fine. I mean, I'm not necessarily convinced one way or
Yeah, no, it's just yeah, it's just the one that's seen as convincing in the field. Kettle's an important person, and I think we know that.
Everyone's an important person.
No,
Wow.
there are unimportant people in this story. Yeah, I don't really have much to say.
Chapter 18.
Let's see. Yeah, okay. Page 642 is where I have my quote. Okay, this is the Sita. Our manic accumulation of wealth, our headlong progress, as if motion was purpose and purpose inherently virtuous, our lack of compassion, which we called being realistic, the extremity of our judgments, our self-righteousness, all a flight from death, Briss, all of vast denial smothered in semantics and euphemisms, bravery and sacrifice, pathos and failure, as if life is a contest to be won or lost, as if death is the arbiter of meaning, the moment of final judgment, and above all else, judgment is a thing to be delivered, not delivered onto. Would you rather we worship death, Sita? Equally pointless. One needs no faith to die, one dies nonetheless. I spoke of systemic denial, and it is indeed in every way systemic. The very fabric of our world, here in Lether and perhaps elsewhere, has been twisted round that absence. Yeah, death influences a lot. I find really interesting looking around society and seeing what is the result of people reacting to the fear of death and what is the result of people just denying that will ever happen to them. I think is becoming more and more common.
People denying that death will happen is becoming more and more common.
Not consciously, but I think sort of implicitly people are believing that more. Sort of because
I actually think the opposite.
Yeah.
But okay.
I think it's because of our notion of progress. We're progressing at such a rapid pace. I don't think it's a very common belief, by the way. I think it's just becoming more common.
Okay.
That there are very feasible ways to cheat death that are kind of coming along and could feasibly be achieved in all of our lifetimes, right?
Yeah, and yet, we're in this pandemic where the death toll is absurd.
But you have Jeff Bezos investing in anti-aging technology because he wants to be an immortal cyborg, right?
Who doesn't?
He's also kind of not normal.
Oh yeah, he's not normal or someone to be emulated, but
The reason why I say I think it's the opposite is that I think part of it is being in the climate that we're in with the pandemic. People are reevaluating priorities, quitting jobs that are draining, they don't find meaningful. It's not really what they want to be spending their time doing. They're spending more investments in things that they have on their bucket list. And why wait? If you can do it now, then do it. Personally, I've gone through many cycles of this. It's hence why I'm changing my job. Hence why I'm taking trips that I can.
That's why I changed my job.
Yeah.
So I agree with what you're saying. But I think in the past people had much more of a harsh look on things because, to quote a famous philosopher, life was nasty, brutish, and short. People died all the time back in before modern medicine, right?
Still the case, right?
Right,
yes,
but,
we're very fortunate to be where we are, where we can do this kind of thing, but
in modern society, we are incredibly separated from even seeing death. whenever we see dead people, it's usually in a funeral. And in a funeral, they're all so made up and they look alive. And like it's not the same thing as the way people used to live with seeing death nearly all the time.
Like,
And I think that really changes
But that's what I'm
the way
saying is
people
like for
see death.
us, right? For us right now, that may be the case, but that is not the case for a lot of the parts of the world still.
that's true.
Yeah.
I'm mostly speaking about like this culture because I don't feel qualified to speak for other people's cultures. But yeah, like most babies do not die before the age of 1. That did not used to be the case. People did not name their children often until they reached like age 5 because usually they would just die.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like, yes, people are living longer, infant mortality is lower. But what I was kind of reacting to was the thinking death won't happen part. Like,
I think
that's
it's
still
mostly a thing with,
not.
like, younger people. Like teenagers, notoriously reckless, right? They don't think that bad things will happen to them a lot of the time. Anyways, that's all I had to say about that. Shall we go to chapter 18 then?
Yes.
Okay. An army of Lether is soundly defeated on the field of battle. Troll continues asking uncomfortable questions.
Lilac.
Yeah, Lilac.
Does anyone else love Lilac? Because I love Lilac. Lilac's somebody you should cherish and take care of.
Yeah, I feel really bad.
That brought me to tears, especially before I knew it was gonna be like saved and named, and it was just the caster of nets. I was just like, didn't know like anything about the war it was fighting in, and like it's never gonna see its family again.
But then when it was being saved, it's like, but what's the point? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Then you find out. Then there's the comedic, like, kind of like relief from it when you find out that being a caster of nets is like this super dangerous job because it's like trying to catch those catfish in the nascent.
Mm-hmm.
And then he saves Troll's life. Good guy.
Or girl.
I think
is
Lilac.
sex known?
I don't know.
Or gender? Yeah, that's all I got. I have a quote, but that's it. I
thought the battle was really cool.
It's very visceral.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of the battles in the second half of the book are incredibly visceral.
I had to read the Enfilade part of the battle twice. So it was like hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this section, magic is essentially World War I artillery. And they're sort of realizing what they have.
It was crazy. Like they have like the wall of like shadow sorcery and the wall of fire comes, and then when they collide, like it turns into a wall of flaming bones. Starts going the other way. Like what the hell? It's so metal. And then there's like the counter strike of the lightning. What?
Mm-hmm.
And it just like the counter strike of the lightning like really kind of like brought it home because the wall of bone fire, it's like hitting all these people that you don't know anything about them, and they're just like the Letheri that are there. And so it's like brutal, but it's like very zoomed out. But then like you're like with Troll, and there's like these ranks of Eater, and this lightning just like tears through, and a bunch of people are just dead.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like you're in it, when it happens instead of being like zoomed out. Like,
well, we were in what's her name? Nerol, whatever, that one mage on the Letheri side.
Narud?
Her perspective, right? And she was seeing her peers like just die, but like they were there, and then the next moment it's just a pile of ash, and then she's like, okay, and it's like OMFG, like, and then
I thought she died to the god. I think it was just like a random. No, it was the king's the queen's Finad, that guy. I think who was preserving the stuff, and then he pulls something in his groin, and then he rides off.
We definitely had a perspective from Nekolbara.
We did, and
yes,
then she got eaten by the god.
That's a different sequence.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like you were saying that we were seeing things from afar, but I was saying that for some of the events we got like in the.
I'm just talking about this one scene. Like it shows the zoomed out part when the sorcerer is going against the Letheri, but then it zooms in before there's the like Letheri counterstrike with the lightning, and you're getting like you're like right up on Troll, and the lightning like tears through ranks of soldiers, like Eater warriors, and it's like so it's like kind of like you're zoomed out, and it's just happening. But then you're down here, and it's like you're in the trenches, you know. And you
Gotcha.
also see the demon with the mace like tearing up the mages on the fairy fort. Like, oh man, some really crazy scene.
Agreed.
And then Troll stabs the last mage. Good job, Troll.
Yeah, I think we should move this conversation into a more interesting part, and that's Troll's feelings.
Yeah. Let's get to how Troll feels about the situation.
So, our brother is doomed to die countless deaths. Die, rise, and die again. Our brother, Fear, the youngest among us. This is how I see it, and now I am to embrace the power that has done this to Rulad. I am to serve it, lend it my skills with the spear. I am to carve for it an empire. Are his deaths without pain, without horror? Is he not scarred? How long, Fear, can his sanity hold on? There he stands, a young warrior bedecked in gold nightmare, his flesh puckered and mangled, and weapons shall pierce him. He knows it. He knows he will be killed again and again. Troll's my boy.
Troll
I'm
is...
I'm team Troll now.
Yo, welcome to the right side.
I like Troll in this chapter.
Chapter 19.
Sure.
Yeah.
Chapter 19. Udanos makes a vow to a broken child. Seren struggles to understand her pain as she flees across the country. Withal and Sandaleth comfort one another, in manner of speaking.
It's quite the stretch.
So, like, does he really just have a concussion? Because I'm, like, scared that he's, like, gonna have, like, a hole in his head with, like, his brain half leaking out. He's gonna be just, like...
You think the crippled god's gonna allow him to die?
No, I'm talking about, like, really severely mentally like deformed or, like, permanently brain damaged. Not dead.
She didn't hit him that hard.
Okay. I was afraid it was going in this, like, direction where it's gonna be, like crippled, and that was, like, gonna suit the crippled god's design or something.
Maybe. The scene with Rulad and Udanos is my favorite in the entire book.
Wow.
I loved it. It was just fantastic. Him listening to Udanos and him saying he trusts Udanos, and there's so much there unsaid, and Udanos saying one thing and thinking another and feeling ambivalence about the whole thing, and then like him telling on Man about Feather Witch, and then Rulad saying, "Oh, taking Man was a mistake," and it was just really interesting. At least I thought it was.
Yeah, I liked it. What I really liked was that Rulad tried to escape his service to the crippled god. In the tent, he tries to strike the crippled god, and like as he picks up the sword and moves to strike, he disappears back to his body. So there's like this like attempt at like this like final redemptive act, which surely would not have worked even if he could have struck him. But the crippled god's just like, nope, bye, and he's back in his body. I like that.
It sucks.
In the crippled god's realm, I think that's the only time we really see Rulad being Rulad, because when he's back in our realm, the crippled god's in his head the entire time. Poor Rulad. And you see like Udanos trying to like he's struggling so much with it because like Rulad's doing bad things, but also Udanos, he's a compassionate guy, and he doesn't want to leave this broken child to go insane. It's tough.
Udanos, great.
Yes.
Do you have any other thoughts, quotes, or should we move on to
I have
questions? Okay.
Okay. This is after Seren and the Crimson Guard kill a bunch of deserters. They left the bodies where they had fallen, left the lances impaled in flesh growing cold, left the wagon apart from the food they can transport. The refugees coming up on the road could have the rest. Among the dead were 5 youths, none of them older than 15 years. They'd walked a short path, but as Halfpeck observed, it had been the wrong path, and that was that. Seren pitied none of them. Core theme of the series is compassion. Seren can't feel it at the moment because of what's happened to her, and that's just how it is. Like sometimes feeling compassion for other human beings is hard, even for like boys who took the wrong path and were killed for it.
I'm gonna change the tone.
Mhm.
We learn that I can't remember if it's in this chapter or the one before, but basically the people who like taught the Letharians how to ride horses.
Yes.
Blue Rose.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
was the Blue Rose, which I'm pretty sure they're the Tysandi, and the stirrups, the whole thing about that. I just love the dawning of realization for Seren.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it seems like they were like a settled tribe of Taistandi, occurred by the Love Theory. That's what I picked up too.
Could be. Yeah, it's a great practical joke.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, that's just how you got to ride a horse.
Mhm.
Man,
We made
horses
these special
suck.
for you.
You know, I thought that was yeah. That got me really laughing when I first read the book.
I will agree that this book so far has been the most like haha moments, thanks to, the like two specific characters mainly. But even with some of the side characters, with Shirk and even Kettle, like
Arliss.
some dark humor. Harlist, yeah. Those have been quite a few standout, like funny moments. Yeah.
This book is closest in tone, I think, to I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again on this episode, to the Bacalane and Corbel Broach novellas of all the 5 we've read. Because
Nice.
though I think the humor is more gory in the Bacalane ones, it's the same kind of like
Understandable.
dark,
necromancer and a cannibalistic mad doctor. That doesn't sound gory.
dark black comedy, kind of dry humor, some slapstick elements. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really close, and all the jokes with the undead.
Mhm. Cool.
Okay, so Lady Student asks, how cool is Iron Bars? I'd say a
Super cool.
9 out of 10.
He's very cool.
Pretty cool.
He's boss.
Okay, so boss out of 10.
Mhm.
Predictions. How will the Azath Tower be a game changer at the end of the book?
I think like not, because it's dead. And so I guess the only way to be a game changer is like all those creatures breaking out. So it's already a game changer,
Oh, a big one.
I guess. I mean, like in the end of the whatever semantics.
You guys have any thoughts?
I mean, we'll see what happens if Just Ruin gets out. That's going to be a pretty big game changer, I
don't
think.
Just Ruin is in there.
We already went through this.
I think he probably was killed off screen by those other creatures that are killing everything.
And the
down.
next question from Lady Sweden.
The real Just Ruin is the friends we made along the way.
Demons are usually quite one-dimensional in fantasy. Here we have our second almost caring parenting demon. How do you feel about them? We covered this part already.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll add one thing to what we said, which is when I know, and it'll probably be like 1,000 times more at the end of book 10, but I know the next time I read Gardens of the Moon, Pearl dying is going to hit me that much harder.
Yo,
It's
Pearl.
Yeah. Erickson has made me care about 2 different demons that I never met before within one paragraph. And like to the point where I have tears in my eyes threatening to run down my face.
Nice.
Red Army Ian asks, when I read this, I felt like something was off about this continent. Do you also feel like this? If so, what do you think it is?
I mean, we don't get much of Warrens until the Crimson Guard shows up.
There are no human Warrens active. It's just the fragments of Kurald Immerlan, however you say that. And then we get some Kurald Ghislaine after the Crimson Guard show up. So there's been no mortal.
And there's been no. Well, Hood isn't on this continent, it seems.
Well,
You're forgetting
that's
Bug.
the mortal Warren of Death,
Yeah,
right?
I'm forgetting Bug, right?
Shut up. What? I just threw that out there, okay? I'm probably very wrong.
Yeah, so the hold of death is definitely gone though. Or so says them.
In support of your theory, Panda, Bug did say that he doesn't like to be worshipped.
I know.
Yeah.
He's a very reluctant leader. And he probably would enjoy wearing hoods.
I think.
We forgot to talk about the scene where Shirkalal goes into that building with all the dead people.
Yes, that's another part where I was
The
like,
tolls.
oh.
She basically went into the New York Stock Exchange and had ghosts that used to work there help her like find the records, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Pyromaniac.
That was brilliant. I love that part. Okay.
That was very funny. But that's where I was also like, oh, the usage of ghosts in House of Chains was cool, but this is, I think, done better.
Olivia, who from the characters in this book do you think will still be alive or very much dead by the end of the book?
Bug will still be alive.
Troll will die at the end of the book.
No, he won't.
I think that Shirk will be dead.
Yes.
Like dead.
As well.
That's funny.
Like dead, or you think she'll just be in her current state?
No comment.
I put good money on Rulad being dead for some point.
The ghost, I think, will stay dead.
Yeah, and still just Rune, of course, long dead.
Sandalester Corlat, undead.
Sort of.
Kettle will be alive. How about that?
Ooh, spicy. What do you think,
Like
Yesta? Who do you think? I will tell you, at least one major character dies. Who do you think it could be?
Udanas.
Udanas, okay.
Udanas, yeah, that's a good one.
Great.
Not, or maybe Fear.
You think
Not
he's Major? Oh, sorry.
hell. Major secondary.
Sure.
Probably the King and the Seda, and maybe Bryce too. I'm not betting on the Lotharian at this moment.
Okay, so Cannon Fodder asks, what are everyone's thoughts on the Fork Roll Sale Society and ideology?
Okay, so spoiler warning for Loki, the show. Have you all seen it?
I
No?
haven't, but go for it.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna watch.
Oh, Hurin's
So-
gonna edit this.
I edited it
I
anyway.
can't say it. Never mind. You're gonna have to edit this, Huron.
So Loki is the Fork Roll of Sale, is what you're saying.
Yes, Loki is a fork roll sale. Exactly. That is what I was saying. Okay, I'm not gonna say it, but the fork roll sale are basically like we're just arbiters to keep the balance.
It's
And
a really
all
seductive idea.
All we're gonna do is, if you do something to tip the scale, we're just gonna do just enough to tip it back. And that's it.
And they're willing to kill you if they think that it will balance things out.
Mm-hmm.
They bring you peace and calm by killing you.
Yeah.
So all I will say is it just reminds me of something from Loki. That's it.
And
There's
and somehow they got from that to deciding to leave, like they just left. As at least that's what Tool told us in Gardens of the Moon, I think.
Well, a lot of them were killed.
Yeah.
We learned that in this section.
Rocks put on top of them.
That too. Yeah, like the notion of justice is like such a seductive one, right? And I think most people would say they believe in, tit for tat justice. And that's the Fork Roll of Sailor, that taken to its logical conclusion. So take that how you may, with how they're portrayed.
Well, I mean, it's kind of, very presumptuous of them to think that they should be the ones to keep the balance.
Yeah, that they know what justice is, that they have the right to enforce that on other people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So that, I think they are pompous. I think they're scary. They may be vampiric in their features. They do have this, well, isn't there a book called Assail, and like Telanimos are fighting against some?
Well, there is a book called Assail, but the continent is called Assail.
Okay. I'm
I haven't read it.
assuming there's a connection between Fork Roll Assail and the continent.
There may be.
So
I honestly don't know. I haven't read the book yet.
yeah, I mean, I think they may be good intention, but who made them judges?
Judge, jury, and executioner. Shall we call it?
Okay, we're gonna end this episode. That concludes this episode. If you want to join the read along and or contribute listener questions, by the way, shout out to the listeners who have been contributing questions. We really appreciate it. It makes the discussion way more interesting. Check us out on the Legendarium's Discord. You can find the link on thelegendarium.com. Also follow us on Twitter at Green Team Pod for updates and fun times and pictures of beautiful books. Check out the Legendarium podcast for Wheel of Time, Cosmere, Lord of the Rings content, and so much more. Thank you to our panelists, Ashaman, JasnahAsABoy, and Hurinfan. I'm BefuddledPanda. Until next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Pew pew.
You.